This association of poverty with progress is the great enigma of our times. It is the central fact from which spring industrial, social, and political difficulties that perplex the world, and with which statesmanship and philanthropy and education grapple in vain. So long as all the increased wealth which modern progress brings goes but to build up great fortunes, to increase luxury, and make sharper the contrast between the has.
Just keep going.
No.
What the? Okay, who says House of Have and the House of
what?
House of
House
Want?
of Have. And
Well,
House
I
of
guess
Want.
Henry George probably does.
Henry George.
I guess he's smarter than I am.
All right, let's just keep going.
Okay.
Just-
So, all right, what I meant to say, audience members, is the sharper contrast between the House of Have and the House of Want. Progress is not real and cannot be permanent.
Okay. What a
boy.
quote. What a
Oh,
way
boy.
to. I mean, this was a powerful quote, and it's early. We're doing an early morning recording.
Okay.
We have Mr. Hill brought me coffee.
Yeah.
And wait, why does your coffee say my name on it?
Well, because I walked in and I said, "Oh, I would like this for my order, and I'm also picking up for Riley Kellner."
Oh.
And so the guy just was like, "Riley Kellner, I'll write
Wow,
this-
lucky you.
I'll write this on everything."
Lucky you.
Yeah.
So-
I have my own coffee, ground last night,
Yeah.
freshly ground.
Okay,
That's
do you
usually
want
what
a
I do.
medal or something for that?
That's usually what I do, but then I thought, you know what? Riley has brought me coffee before, so I thought I would. just
Kellner
offer.
loves the Starbucks. The
Well, it's my
corporate
it's every
coffee is-
Friday.
Corporate coffee. is what I call
Well, that's very
about
relevant
that.
for today.
it. yeah, exactly.
Talk about the House of Have.
The House of Has over here. Okay, so this quote, big picture,
Which
picture.
Mr. Hill delivered brilliantly.
Oh, so good.
Brilliantly.
It's Henry George talking about the contrast between we have all this progress and yet we have all this poverty. So if you're living through the late 1800s, the quote, the book captures a riddle you really can't stop seeing everywhere. It's that cities get richer, factories get bigger, and yet we also have slums, strikes, and people wondering if this whole system is actually kind of rigged.
And yeah, of course, it's like, wow, this is sad, right? But it's also, we need to think, why is this happening, right? So how can a country be building steel bridges into the sky while children are working very long days and in unsafe conditions and families are living in tenements?
So today we're telling the story of how the United States becomes this industrial giant. We'll call it industrial supremacy, and how Americans argue, and pretty loudly about, still to this day, we should say, about what this industrial power should mean. Is it proof that a system works or proof that the system needs fixing?
So the Gilded Age, spoiler alert, is basically a season of prestige television, ambition, consolidation,
Get it together!
propaganda, labor conflict, political drama, and a whole lot of money changing hands.
Plus the railroads. Always the railroads. Don't forget
Always
that.
the railroad.
Yeah, there's always railroads.
There'll always be money in the banana stand. All right, we're going to be very serious about the Gilded Age. Okay, so let me
Very
set the scene. Let me set the scene. The Civil War ends in 1865 because chronology
Matters.
and the United States is going to be stitched back pretty unevenly together, politically, imperfectly, economically, aggressively. So you've got a federal government that's more involved than it used to be, and you've got northern industry that just learned how to be how powerful mass production can be to win a war.
And you've got the raw ingredients, everything that you need to build this huge empire: coal, iron ore, timber, oil. And you've got people, millions of people that are moving into cities, immigrating into the country, and they're all looking for work.
So here's a big driver that students and listeners should keep in mind. We now have a national marketplace. We have industrial growth that isn't just more factories. It's factories producing at a massive scale and for distant customers. We remember the market revolution made all this possible, but now we have the infrastructure to go well beyond local markets and find basically customers in every corner of the United States and maybe even the world. But this requires massive transportation networks, a huge amount of capital, and a legal environment that makes big business easier to build.
I'm glad you brought up the market revolution because I think that's great context.
Context.
If you ever get a question on the Gilded Age, the market revolution is a great thing to start with. So when we say industrial supremacy, we're talking about the United States going from what was considered to be a developing economy to a country that can outproduce much older industrial powers. And so by the end of the 1800s, the U.S. is actually surpassing Great Britain in iron and steel production.
And so the other thing to remember here is the United States in the late 1800s isn't just a place. It is a system of inputs and outputs, supply chains, schedules, and credit.
And so when you're living inside this system that is growing so enormously, so quickly, your life really starts to be measured, right? By the clock, by the paycheck, by the price of bread, and by whether the factories are hiring.
This all sets up the drama perfectly. We've got the same forces that make the country richer and also make it feel less personal. We've got more corporate, more controlled, and from here on out, every innovation comes with a question attached. Who benefits and who pays?
So let's name the vibe. Welcome to the Gilded Age.
Welcome.
Not unlike.
What?
Wait, who is it? Oh, Guns N' Roses.
Oh,
Welcome to the jungle.
do Welcome to the Gilded Age.
Welcome to the Gilded Age. See, it just didn't.
No, I thought it was good. I thought it was good.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been light on sound effects.
Well, people were like, oh my gosh, you're going to do overboard with the soundbox.
Wait, what was that?
Let me be me.
Yeah,
And last time I didn't use it at all. And I thought, today's the day.
that wasn't you to not use it this
I
sound.
know.
Yeah.
Something was going on with me,
Yeah.
apparently.
No.
We need more
So
cowbell.
we need more soundbox. So yes, the term is perfect because gilded means coated in gold. It means shiny on the outside, but underneath, it's not solid gold all the way
No
through.
creamy filling.
No. And so this label comes from our, famous Missourian,
Ooh,
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain.
Yes.
A nom de plume, as you'll remember.
When you say that phrase.
You're so French over there.
Mark Twain and Charles Dudley Warner's 1873 satire. This is where the Gilded Age comes from. And it becomes a shorthand for an era associated with both spectacular wealth and also spectacular corruption.
And you know that Mark Twain, a frequent,
Wait, was that
Guest.
his nom de plume?
it was.
Okay.
And I won't.
Samuel Clemens.
I won't explain where that name comes from. I think I've already done that.
Thank you.
But I will say that the reason he wrote this book was twofold. One, he had got kind of taken up by a confidence man, a con man, and lost a whole bunch of money in a get-rich scheme. And so he was really angry about that. And also because he had lost so much money, he needed to make more, so he had to write another book.
I knew about some of this. I started, Mr. Katzev. Shout out to Mr. Katzev. Him and I on the
Mr.
way
K.
to the state golf tournament. We were listening to the Mark Twain,
Oh,
new
the-
Mark Twain
yeah.
biography.
It's like
by,
1,000
It was
pages.
super long.
How far did you
by
get?
Ron Chernow. Well, he was listening to the whole thing. I just kind of popped in.
I got to say, and I think that's great. I got to say that you can't say you've read. I'm a big believer in this. You can't say you've read an audiobook. You have to say you listened to a book.
Oh,
Okay,
That's just how I feel.
you're being really obnoxious today.
I'm just saying.
Oh, I didn't want Starbucks because
Words.
I ground my own beans last night. And hey, let me tell you this
Got a new grinder.
thing about Mark Twain that no one else knows. And you can't just. Why are you on such a pedestal this morning?
Wow.
It's just the way I feel. I'm trying to live my truth.
It's this new Viore jacket.
It does
I
feel-
know.
it
It's
does feel
making you
good.
into someone
You're
that
kind of
you
a-
haven't
it
been
does.
You're
before.
kind of a diva with
It
the new
feels right.
jacket. so-
Huge diva with the new Viore jacket.
Got it.
Yeah.
Kind of got it for the holidays. It's
Okay,
really
we'd
nice.
love a Viore sponsor, wouldn't we?
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
Hey, they
yeah.
do
Wouldn't that be
sponsor
sick?
podcasts. That would be
What?
amazing.
Okay, we're
If
gonna send this
anybody
episode to them.
has
We're gonna clip
connections
this.
with Viore,
We're gonna
Yes.
clip this and we're gonna put it on Instagram and see if
Let's
we can
go.
get a
And
Viore sponsorship.
just Viore, if you're trying to get into that teacher market,
yeah.
here you go. Here's
My-
your
Listen-
entree
Listen,
point.
here's my voiceover for Viore. Viore. I could go to
That's
work
good.
for them,
Yeah,
too.
that would work.
My students also always say we need a J. Crew sponsorship.
I would also enjoy
Because
that.
most of they always are like, where's this from? Where's that from? And I have one answer every time.
And
wow. Look
we
at
get,
you, J.
free
Crew.
stuff all the time. That's cool.
Yeah, if we had both
Wish
of
I
those
could afford J.
sponsorships,
Crew.
well, you're the one sitting there in a Viore jacket.
It was my one
Hey,
thing.
you know why I can afford J. Crew? Is because I am the voice of naturals.
That's true.
I am
That's
the
right.
voice of a dog
That's
treat
true.
company,
That's
lest
true.
we forget.
Here, I also have my new boots on.
Wow.
Oh, I like those.
Look at-
Were you
look at
sad I
Mr.
didn't say anything about
I
those
was.
this morning?
I kind of expected you to say
Really?
something.
Oh, I'm so
Look
sorry.
at Mr.
I like
House of
them.
Have over
Yeah,
there.
I guess I am the house.
Yeah,
of
House
Have.
of Have. I mean, over here,
Whoa.
Mr. Hill and I are the
Yeah.
House of Want.
Yeah, drinking your
Look at me.
Starbucks.
I'm over here in rags.
Okay, so I got distracted. Oh, this cord.
It's okay. It's the
Okay.
jacket.
It's those new boots.
Yeah, it's the
Exactly.
boots. All right, so when we say Gilded Age, we're describing a period where you get a couple key factors or key signifiers. Enormous fortunes. Like if you another side tangent here. The Gilded Age, great show on HBO.
Oh, one of my favorites. Oh, my gosh, Christine Baranski
So good.
is unbelievable. And
she's
Carrie
the older
Coons.
sister, right?
You know
Christine?
what?
Yes.
Yeah, so
you know
good.
what, you guys?
Yeah. Have you never watched it?
You haven't
I've
seen
never
it?
watched it.
Oh, you'd love it. It's good.
incredible.
You know what I do instead? I sit at home and read books.
No.
Not listen,
Come
so,
on
read.
now.
yeah.
No, come on now.
Yeah, I read books.
So, hey, Gilded Age, enormous fortunes. There are these new political machines that are intertwined with corporate influence. We've got rapid urbanization, so the growth of cities. Increasingly, and we're going to get to this more next episode, but we're starting to see conflict between labor and ownership. And then we've got this cultural argument over whether capitalism is making us more free or building instead a kind of hierarchy and aristocracy.
Right. And so let's talk about progress. Who benefits from progress?
Right. And if you want to understand industrial supremacy, you start with who owns the materials, right? Who has the iron and steel, which they aren't glamorous, but they're the skeleton or the bones of modern life with rails, bridges, skyscrapers, and machines.
It's steel totally transforms what is possible for the United States. You go from a world where building tall is very difficult and very dangerous to a world where steel frames and mass-produced beams make vertical cities very realistic.
So let's build something here. Steel doesn't just happen. This is a chemistry story with huge consequences.
I see what you did there. Let's
Yeah.
build something.
Build something
something,
together. Right. We have iron. Iron is great, but it has its limits, especially when you're trying to build bigger, faster, heavier buildings and machinery. So the breakthrough is figuring out how to make stronger metal reliably, cheaply at an industrial scale.
And luckily for everybody listening to this podcast, I am an expert in the Bessemer process.
You've probably been to some museum or something.
I
haven't
am an
you?
expert. No, I actually know nothing about the Bessemer process except for you blow hot air into iron and then it.
Well, you guys
know.
know a lot about blowing hot air into a
Oh,
microphone.
there we go.
Hey, is this on? Whoa,
What
hey,
is
all right,
with
let's
us?
go. Let's
Okay,
go.
so the Bessemer process is basically the moment that steel goes from a specialty material to a mass material.
Yeah, you take molten pig iron, which there you go.
Are you referring to yourself?
Boy,
Wow,
what
zinging.
is
Zinging
happening?
back and
People still
forth.
bring up Porkopolis to me.
No one's ever brought it up to me. They probably bring it up to you to talk about how shameful it is that you try to.
I called you that.
Yeah.
Porkopolis,
So pig
iron.
iron, and you blast it with hot air,
Blast it.
and it makes all this excess carbon. You guys get that, and impurities, and then
Oh, we get it.
there's controlled surge, or excuse me, a controlled purge,
Mm-hmm.
and this is obviously a definition we had to look up, and you end up with steel, and that steel is strong and consistent.
And the key here is that it doesn't just work. It's that it's fast. It's like the difference between baking one loaf of bread at home and opening an industrial bakery.
Which means that suddenly you can afford steel rails that last longer, steel beams that hold taller buildings, and steel cables for bridges, and steel machinery that will not warp under pressure. So once you can control steel, you can control the shape of the entire modern world. So cities are going to rise upward, railroads are going to go outward, factories are going to be bigger, and machines are going to be faster.
Which is why steel isn't just a side plot of our story here. It's the foundation, literally, for these titans of industry who figure out, okay, how can we produce it, move it, and sell it at a scale nobody else can really match?
So then you enter Andrew Carnegie.
Carnegie or Carnegie?
Carnegie, because he's from Scotland.
I say Carnegie.
I say Carnegie too.
Wait, whoa. Let's honor people's pasts.
I think everybody
Okay.
says Carnegie Hall, though, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I've never have. Ever since I was a child, I was like,
This is
Mom,
the hill I will
Dad,
die
let's
upon.
go to Carnegie Hall. I'd like to see some music. I've always said that.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
So he goes from, he's a poor, penniless immigrant from Scotland, and he builds the steel empire. But here's the key AP idea here, kids. Carnegie isn't just a rich guy. He's part of a new business strategy where scale is everything, and controlling inputs and distribution can crush rivals.
And so that's where, of course, we get the language of vertical integration, this idea of controlling the supply chain from raw materials to transportation to production. Every step in that chain of manufacturing is owned by one entity. In this case, Carnegie is famous for vertically integrating the steel industry.
And then meanwhile, you have oil starting its own transformation. And luckily, I'm also an expert in oil. So early drilling and refining matters, not just because cars come later, but because things like kerosene and lubrication and industrial energy are changing how people live and how factories operate.
Right, and that leads to Rockefeller. Oh wait,
Is
no,
he
that
Scottish
doesn't work.
too?
No,
I don't
I
think
just
he's
want to make
Scottish.
everything Scottish. I'm kind of a big
yeah.
fan. His dealio here, Standard Oil, and not vertical integration, it's horizontal integration now, and so that is buying out or destroying all of the competitors with whom you compete in a market.
Yesterday, I likened horizontal integration to Pac-Man.
Oh yeah,
So you're just, you're just eating up all
Eating
your
all the
competitors.
competition.
Yep.
Sure. I think at one point, Standard Oil had like over 90% of the entire oil industry under its umbrella.
90%.
Pretty powerful
That would be
stuff.
illegal today.
That's a lot of oil right there.
Yes. So, and we will talk about why. See, already you can hear this moral argument coming. Is this just an American story of genius and enterprise, or is it something else? Maybe something like a monopoly.
Oh, my most hated game, my most hated board game, Monopoly.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm not
love
a big
it.
fan either.
Takes
love
too
it.
long.
Yeah.
Takes too long.
Yeah.
Okay, but the main character. You ready for this?
Yeah,
The main character. Railroads. I probably should have done railroads and then that
Yeah.
sound, but
It
And
was
it
like
wasn't
it was
really
like
a
in
joke.
Hamilton when
I'm not-
Madison says France.
Yeah.
in that
France.
exchange. France.
So railroads.
Who did that? France. Okay, so the railroads are like the internet of the 1800s. They connect markets. They standardize time. Standardization of time. That is a big deal in and of
Yeah.
itself, right? They accelerate migration and decide which towns boom and which towns become ghost stories.
And the scale is really what's incredible. The Library of Congress notes that before 1871, about 45,000 miles of track had been laid down. And between 1871 and 1900, there'd be another 170,000 miles added. And that's not just expansion, that's basically remapping daily life in America.
But here's what's so important, that railroads don't just serve business. Oh, serving, look out. The railroad is serving. They become business power. Mr. Hill thought that was really funny.
I didn't know that was your
I
serve
tell
voice.
jokes.
Okay.
I tell
Yeah,
jokes
yeah,
just so
right.
Mr. Hill will laugh. So
I didn't find it very fun.
I don't care what you think. So the railroads, they are going to set rates, they offer rebates, and they choose winners, which is going to be a problem.
And the public notices that. National Archives explains the problem pretty bluntly. Quote, the railroad monopolies had the power to set prices, exclude competitors, and control the market in several geographic areas, unquote. That is basically the definition of structural power.
And railroads are also going to fuel finance because they need massive capital to be built. You got to spend money to make money, right? So this means bankers and financiers, they're going to gain leverage. Like, hello, JP Morgan.
I thought you were JP Morgan for a second.
It did
I was
sound-
just
Gotta
like,
spend
whoa.
money to make money.
And that's a real story in season 3 of
Yeah.
Gilded Age. The Morgan family,
They're trying to build
Capital,
the Transcontinental Railroad.
the
So when they show
railroads.
JP Morgan, do they show his
Yes, there's bulbous nose.
Ugh,
Yes.
Nasty.
I tried to read the biography. I read it. I didn't listen to it. But I tried to read the biography. Same guy, Chernow,
Ron Chernow, yeah.
did on the House of Morgan, and I made it like halfway through. It was really good, and I got sidetracked. Usually, I don't do that.
Sidetracked.
The biggest
about railroads?
connection
Whoa.
that I have to the House of Morgan is that one of the descendants of JP Morgan was married to one of the Real Housewives of New York City.
And that's
What?
And I
There
love
you go.
Real Housewives of New York City.
You know what?
There we go.
Sometimes the world just kind of comes together.
Everything
in the right way.
can be connected back
it
to
all
the Real Housewives.
it all consolidates.
Oh, so good.
Speaking of consolidation, J.P. Morgan, his game is to consolidate, kind of merge together as many corporate powers as possible, and then all of a sudden, competition not such a problem because you can control rates, you start to undercut your competitors, you force them into bankruptcy, you buy them out. All of a sudden, you own all the keys to the castle, you have stability in the market, and you own everything. All right, so to kind of see continuity here, let's jump forward slightly and look at how all of this industrial might leads to a new industrial story, and that, of course, is that how rails and steel will lead to the automobile.
You thought railroads were impressive. Just watch this.
Watch this.
Watch this now.
The automobile. It's the one that reshapes daily life. I mean, who are we as Americans without the automobile? It really has
I
defined
wouldn't have been
us.
able to be here
Right.
today without the automobile.
Exactly. I took my automobile to work. And Henry Ford becomes the most, or names, he is that name, okay, that students remember because he turns the car into a mass consumer product.
Right, and Ford is just this perfect example of industrial thinking and standardization. And so he's sort of the inevitable conclusion of our story of how industrial power takes off, because as in Ford's words, he'll say, quote, "Any customer can have a car painted any color that he wants so long as it is black." And it's supposed to be kind of this funny line. So it's not really that funny.
He
I
does,
mean, I
he
don't
does a lot
find
of
anything about
stand-up,
Henry
but,
Ford to
what
be
a
very
comedian.
funny.
Yeah. But
He's
his whole key thesis, his argument here is standardization of production. We are going to kind of make every step of this process standardized and regimented, and by doing so, we'll streamline the process, and everybody can afford now a car.
And that's going to lead to the assembly line, which it's complicated, right? Because it does make goods cheaper, but it also changes work into very repetitive tasks and really starts to dehumanize workers.
And this is Taylorism. This is something that we brought up in class, and we were talking about it the other day. The idea that efficiency can be scientifically managed. Frederick Winslow Taylor puts it sharply. In the past, the man has been first. In the future, the system must be first. So that you get that dehumanization of workers. That's a huge cultural shift. The worker becomes part of a machine-like process rather than just a human doing a task.
We can imagine that this has some consequences, right? De-skilling of skilled labor, right?
Is that a word? De-skilling?
Or is it desk killing? Like the killing of
No, it's
desks?
Yeah.
de-skilling makes sense. I can see how you
That
wouldn't
is
be
the
familiar
word
with
of the
it.
episode.
Desk killing?
Desk killing.
Okay, so the skill in labor is taken out, and all of a sudden you have a host of workers who are used to making things carefully and craftily with their hands. No longer is that really necessary, but it does speed up the work process, and this fuel for labor, for unskilled labor, is going to become this point of conflict because it creates new kinds of wages, new forms of consumer life, and the idea of mass production creates mass consumption.
And that's the tension, right? That this industrial capitalism can raise standards of living incredibly for some people while also grinding people down inside the system and creating a cycle of poverty that is really difficult to get out of.
Exactly. And so how do people justify the rise of these giants and corporations? Are they robber barons or are they captains of industry?
And the one concept that really helps us understand this moral debate is social Darwinism. The idea that, look, competition is natural and the fittest rise, obviously borrowed from the biological theory of evolution. And instead, we're going to apply it to society and economics. Herbert Spencer coins the phrase survival of the fittest as it applies economically, tying it to this evolutionary thinking and basically justifying that some people are meant to rule while others are meant to serve.
Yeah, and in the American context, with this rise of new wealth and this industrial boom following the Civil War, social Darwinism becomes a way to say wealth is earned and poverty is failure. So helping too much, having maybe a government come in and help those in poverty too much, might interfere with natural outcomes. So it's like, Dr. Garrison, wealth is earned with your Viore jacket.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Clearly.
Mr.
Yes.
Hill and I are failures because we don't have it.
You're making a lot of sense.
We don't. Look at the rags. Speaking
natural.
of rags to riches, this whole idea kind of pairs nicely with the whole rags to riches mythology, kind of engineered by Horatio Alger, telling stories about the idea that character plus hard work equals success.
And that's what's fascinating in Alger's heroes. They aren't usually brilliant, but they are moral. And so in one of his books, the main character says, "Oh, I'm a rough customer, but I wouldn't steal. It's mean."
That was pretty good.
You know what? That was very
Powerful book.
It was powerful.
Let me do it again. This is improv. "Oh, I'm a rough customer, but I wouldn't steal. It's mean."
I like that pause at the end.
One of my
dramatic.
favorite games to play is one phrase or one sentence, but you have to say it 3 to 5 different ways.
Never heard of that.
It's so fun.
It is fun.
It's so fun. And so that line that I just said 2 different ways, it tells you what the myth is selling, that virtue can lead to upward mobility.
And that Horatio Alger myth is the classic, well, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. That's where that kind of comes from. And
If you want a Viore jacket,
Yeah.
you better work.
you got to work for it and
Girl.
work hard.
Girl.
Whatever it takes to get it. Right?
Yeah.
And if you do, you'll succeed and everyone else will be a failure. All right, so here we go with Carnegie. Because
John Brown, failure at everything in life. Shout out to my students. They'll know what that means.
Okay. So Carnegie is the kind of is going to complicate all of this, right? He's going to see that, yes, inequality is inevitable in a modern industrial society, but he also recognizes that the rich have these responsibilities. So he writes this gospel of wealth in which he argues that, quote, the surplus of wealth of the few will become the property of the many because administered for the common good.
So Carnegie is not saying tear down capitalism. Oh, no, that's what got him here. So he's saying capitalism plus philanthropy equals progress.
And that creates a cultural model that we still recognize, where billionaires, they fund libraries, universities, museums, doing all of these things for the public good while keeping a lot of private power. And we had a long conversation about this in class yesterday that, the gospel of wealth, if you're looking at changes and continuities for industrialism and how it changes or things stay the same in society, where would you put the gospel of wealth? And I think you could put it in both a change and a continuity and that's the nuance of the great thing about arguing historical evidence is, on the one hand, the gospel of wealth is kind of a continuity because you have a lot of antebellum reformers that we discussed who want to make society a better place, but the government is not helping at all. But on the other hand, you have a new class of wealth here that is just so incredibly huge that their money can go such a long way. And that is something that is new in the Gilded Age.
True.
True that.
All right, so we want to end our story by suggesting where this thing is headed, because for millions of workers, the story of industrial supremacy isn't, wow, look at all these big buildings. It's more like, oh no, my wages got cut, or my hours were brutal, or my workplace is dangerous and I'm going to die in a fire, or my house is too crowded, or my boss can just replace me tomorrow.
Yeah. So you get organized labor, nights of labor, later the AFL, and moments of open conflict, strikes that become national crises.
And you also get political and intellectual critics who say that the system itself is creating the problem. So perhaps the system of unbridled capitalism is the problem.
Unbridled.
I'm cutting that.
Yeah, good. So Henry George is one of these influential thinkers who wants to try to challenge the power of industrial might. And he's looking at rising wealth alongside persistent poverty and says that's not an accident. And he says, remember that quote we started off with, this association of poverty with progress is the great enigma.
Progress.
You know,
I'll cut it.
when I was a child,
He didn't experience a lot of progress as a child, okay? Why don't you get off
Well,
him?
you both are going to feel pretty bad when I finish this.
No, because you couldn't say your R's.
I had a speech impediment.
Yeah, so did I, and my name starts with an R. And I went home and I said, Mom, everybody keeps calling me Wiley, but my name's Wiley.
You know-
And you know what my mom said? She said, well, maybe if you said your name right.
Bam!
Yikes.
And she was right.
I had to overcome that speech impediment, but still to this day, sometimes it slips. And you would think someone who also had a speech impediment would have a little more empathy, but I guess that's just not.
I was seeing if we had a violin, a sad violin
That was so
to play.
well timed. That was really well timed.
Sad. Anyways,
Your life has just been so hard
well, it's one.
compared to some of
Yeah.
these
One
workers
battle
that
after
we're
another.
talking about.
Mr. Viore over there.
Yeah,
Things are difficult.
really overcome a lot.
Thank you. I'll say the quote again because it's so powerful.
Yeah, it's progress.
This association of poverty with progress is the great enigma of our times. His solution focuses heavily on land and taxation, the idea that certain kinds of wealth accumulation are unearned and really socially destructive.
And then you have Edward Bellamy comes in with his utopian bestseller called Looking Backward. He publishes this in 1888. He attacks the waste of private competition, and he says, no mode more wasteful for utilizing human energy could be devised. And so he goes on to imagine an organized cooperative economy, basically a thought experiment that says, how about this? What if we treated the nation like a system built to meet human needs and not just generate profit?
And this is important for us to recognize. These aren't just cranks yelling out on street corners, right? These ideas, they have audience. Think of these as the influencers of the time. People are not listening. They're reading this. And they shape reform movements and third parties and the progressive era that's going to follow.
And don't forget actual socialist political organizations. I mean, you've got the Socialist Labor Party in America that's starting to really make inroads with American workers and intellectuals searching for alternatives to corporate capitalism.
Yeah. So let's define the monster, shall we?
We shall. A monopoly is a board game, but it's also when one company dominates a market so thoroughly that competition really becomes meaningless because others can't stay in the game. And so in the late 1800s, Americans are watching these industries of oil and steel consolidate into fewer and fewer hands.
This is all based on these trusts or holding companies, and they continually merge and form larger and larger entities because even if people love cheap kerosene or cheaper steel, they start to fear what happens when one corporation can just completely dictate terms.
So, and the power here isn't just economics or prices. It's politics, it's influence, it's the ability to shape laws, courts, and all public life.
And this is problematic. I mean, I know every year when we do trusts, I feel like, oh, are they really understanding what a trust is? Think about if there were a bunch of pizza places in town. We all love pizza. And one pizza place just starts overtaking them all and making all of the decisions moving forward. But you liked the crust over at Pizza Shack. But now that Pizza Hut has taken over everything, you don't get the crust that you used to like. So this is a problem for the consumer because it is going to limit their freedom of choice, basically. And so this is why people like muckrakers, this is an important term for us, they become such a big deal later on. These are journalists who are going to dig through the muck, digging into these unfair corporate methods and putting them on blast for all to know and to do something about.
Right, and we're going to talk more about Ida Tarbell and how she takes down Standard Oil. But just real quick to see where we're going here, she concludes in her writings of Rockefeller's influence, quote, "Our national life is on every side distinctly poorer, uglier, meaner for the kind of influence he exercises." And that's not an economic argument, it's a civic argument. It's about what concentrated wealth does to a democracy.
And you can hear the era's central fear. Industrial supremacy might make the country rich, but can it keep the country free?
Good cue.
Well
Good
said.
cue.
Yeah, excellent. So thanks for tuning in to APUSH for All, everybody. If you like this episode,
Oh, I wanted to see what his reaction would be.
I'm a professional. Be sure to subscribe on
progress.
Spotify, Apple, iTunes,
He's a
YouTube,
professional.
and please leave a review. Give us a topic if you want
Please
us
leave
to
a
cover
review.
it. Send us a message on Instagram at APUSH for All.
Until next time, keep learning from yesterday to make sense of today.